You're watching the news from Kazakhstan. I'm Askar Sheraliyev, and these are the top stories. A defendant in the case over Zhanaozen riots identified policemen who beat him during the pre-trial investigation. Others continue testifying about tortures and police brutality. Karaganda City administration vowed to help residents of the collapsed apartment block collect compensations for damages. The rest of the estate tenants asked to be included in the commission to be assessed the sustainability of their accommodations. Sports authorities are set to likely terminate the contract of Canadian hockey player Kevin Dolman, whose wife left unflattering comments about Kazakhstan in her personal blog. Defendants in the case over Zhanaozen riots reveal more episodes of torture during the pre-trial investigation. On Thursday, defendant Yerlan Kaliyev named several policemen who beat him in his prison cell. Additionally, Maksat Dasmagambetov revealed that investigators Kaldubai Auezov, Nurlan Yizbergenov, Aslan Talibayev, Nurjan Jandarbekov and other investigators used police brutality during interrogations. The defendant claimed that the deputy head of the Zhanaozen police department, Abdurasul Ateshov, was also involved in the illegal actions of the investigators. As a result, defendant Dasmagambetov ended up with broken ribs, signs of beating and cold bladder. The testimonies of another defendant, Nurlan Askaruli, also include similar shocking facts. Unfortunately, we cannot show the footage of these testimonies as all the recordings are banned inside the courtroom. In total, on Thursday, Judge Aralbay Nakashibayev has questioned 9 out of 37 defendants. Previously, they refused to provide testimonies, claiming that the court was not finished with all victims and witnesses. Agreeing to be questioned, the defendants informed that they do not plead guilty. Moreover, they note that their testimonies received in the course of pre-investigation are the result of torture and humiliation exacted by investigators. In the meantime, Zhanaozen residents are trying to contact defendants and pass them medicine collected and sent to Kazakhstan from Europe. On Thursday, activist Venera Popova asked reporters for help in getting a parcel from Austria to its intended destination. For several days, Popova cannot hand over a few boxes of expensive antibiotics. Austrians have bought 2,000 euros worth of medications for the unrest victims and people under trial. The woman believes the Europeans possibly don't know that it is very difficult to meet or pass anything to people under investigation in Kazakhstan. That is why Popova had to address the media in order to inform the families of the defendants. She hopes that this way the medicine will at least end up with the families and not elsewhere. Venera Popova is one of the active supporters of the oil field workers and stated time and again that she personally witnessed the unrests. According to her, the oil field workers who were on strike for 7 months have nothing to do with December events. The local authorities are to be blamed for the tragedy. They won't let me in. As reporters, you know better than even attorneys can get the defendant sometimes, let alone someone like me. I've tried all the ways and now I'm here. That's why I decided to talk to the families through you and ask them to accept the medicine. Resident of the West Kazakhstan region, Zhaugastyn Abiyev transferred around $7,000 of his own savings to the families of defendants. The information was revealed on Thursday by representatives of Independent Committee Zhanaozen 2011. Initially, the money was allocated for Nabiyev's 70th anniversary celebration, but after discussing it with the family, he decided to cancel the celebration and transfer the money to those in need. According to Zhanaozen 2011 committee, the pensioners' money have been already given to 8 families of the defendants. The committee expressed its gratitude to Nabiyev for his strong contribution and calls for the rest of the population to follow the lead in compassion and solidarity to the victims. Meanwhile, local authorities try to misinterpret the situation with rumors that the committee allegedly bribes people, Kaliyev says. Current situation is rather complicated. Just imagine that these mainly young families with up to 5 small children are left without subsistence and surviving for 4 months already while the authorities create additional obstacles. All these families live in Zhanaozen and want to attend the trial in Aktau, 170 kilometers away, spending quite a lot on taxi every day. I'd like to note that if anybody wishes to render sponsor assistance, we are ready to provide our database and it's not necessary to transfer money to our fund. We can provide all account details. Members of the democratic movement Khalik Maydani asked the authorities to stop the judicial tyranny and involve international observers in the Aktau trial. Democrats also say reporters should be restored in their right to transparently cover the hearings. Activists believe the presiding judge has only one goal: to announce the guilty verdict as soon as possible without taking into account all arguments of the defense. Results of the first 2 weeks of the trial. Retraction of witness testimonies made earlier. Retraction of victims' material loss claimed towards the defendants. Confession of police officers about reinforcements arriving in the town prior to December 16 disorders. Rejection of the petition to engage police officers in giving testimonies on their activities, tortures and violations on their part. Ban on using laptops and audio recordings during hearings. Rude behavior of the presiding judge towards the defendants and their attorneys. Numerous facts of civil rights and procedural norms violations during the pre-trial investigation. Anar Mishimbayeva, the former head of the statistics agency, will be extradited to Kazakhstan in the nearest future. The Prosecutor General's deputy said on Thursday the issue has been already settled with the authorities of the United Arab Emirates. Extradition of Anar Mishimbayeva, accused of embezzling almost $6 million, has been settled. Kazakh MPs have finally approved the agreement on extradition of criminals between Kazakhstan and the United Arab Emirates. The General Prosecutor's Office recalled that the issue was first brought up by the head of the state back in 2009 in Abu Dhabi. Currently, there is a gentleman's agreement in place between supervisory bodies of the two countries. Criminals wanted in Kazakhstan are detained in the United Arab Emirates. Meanwhile, Johan Merkel believes the president will sign the agreement in the nearest future. After that, everything will happen pretty fast. The police will detain her and report to us about it. We'll confirm the extradition and our representative will take her under police escort. I believe this will not take long. The signing of the agreement by the president will speed up the process. The simplification of customs procedures was discussed on Thursday in Almaty. The off-site meeting was attended by the management of the Customs Department and Almaty Mayor Ahmedjan Yesimov.
Custom formalities will be eased in Kazakhstan. A number of regulatory bodies and a list of required approvals will be abolished, Majid Esembayev, chairman of the Customs Control Committee, promised recently. As it was stated at the off-site meeting of the Commission that took place in Almaty, soon the responsibility for collecting indirect taxes will be delegated to the Tax Department. There should be two services operating at the border guard and customs. We have to take a list of approvals and procedures from customs and give it to departments dealing with internal customs and post-customs affairs. Measures announced by the newly appointed official are one of the first initiatives for improving reputation of the department, which was significantly damaged by a recent corruption scandal. The memories of the events that took place at customs checkpoints in Kaljan and Khorgas last spring are still fresh, when a criminal group of more than 100 was arrested and charged with smuggling goods from China. The investigation is still underway, and in mid-March the financial police added a fraud indictment to the case. As part of the criminal case, $5 million were paid by the arrested accused Rukusmanov, allegedly for suspending criminal prosecution and mitigating judicial restraint. At the same time, the incident at Khorgas on April 6 never appeared in the records of law enforcement officers. Around 200 people couldn't pass the border on that day. According to our witness, tourists were virtually locked in the building on the grounds that some of the businessmen were unwilling to pay an overload customs fee of €4 per kilogram. Outraged people resorted to breaking windows. The uproar didn't stop until after night. Customs officers shifted the blame on a group of entrepreneurs who repeatedly transported illegal goods across the border. Kanagat Takeva customs broker also unrevealed the real state of things at Khorgas. It turns out that exaction at Kazakh customs checkpoints has become a common thing. This reminds me of an episode last year. I received a note that once new management took over, the unofficial payments grew immediately. I asked by how much, and while all men remained silent, a woman told me that before a car clearance would cost $5,000, but now it's $12,000. After the customs got a slap in the face, the mayor expressed his hopes that simplifying customs procedures will reduce crime, and then immediately left the hall.
The authorities will allocate new housing for residents of the collapsed apartment block in Karaganda. However, compensation for additional damages will have to be recovered directly from the contractors.
Bisoba residents met with the head of the city administration, prosecutor, chair of the expert committee and the director of the Kazakhstan Institute of Reconstruction and Development. The latter assured that the land in the area of the estate is generally suitable for construction. However, the soil is swelled and clear, which means a good drainage system is essential, but the property developers did not provide for that. In order to increase durability, some structures of the building will be reinforced. In the course of the inspection, we shall assess the rest of the buildings. Possibly, additional reinforcement might be required to ensure extra rigidity, or some additional diaphragms have to be introduced. At present, the building is stable. The residents were split into two camps, those who sustained real damage and the rest of the Bisoba residents. The former were quietly awaiting a decision on the issue, while the latter seriously rocked the boat. To start with, they questioned the competence of experts from the Reconstruction and Development Institute and demanded to be included in the expert committee. I am an engineer and would like to take part in it personally, or at least observe what type of inspection is being conducted. Later, residents of Bisoba demanded to drain water from their basements, landscape the area, lay roads and place street lighting, as well as provide them with other accommodation until all works are complete. In addition, people wanted the head of the city administration to publicly accept responsibility for any future consequences. I believe that since you are a city administrator, you have to accept this responsibility. Just say, yes, I am accountable. This aggressive charge of Bisoba residents seemed to concern those left homeless who asked to address the main issue, reimbursement for damages. According to the mayor, out of 65 damaged apartments, only 17 were purchased as part of the governmental program, and the rest were bought under share ownership. An estimated total cost of the apartments is over $2 million. This money will be paid out of the city budget. We are going to compensate everyone apart from those who had two apartments. We'll provide alternative accommodation in the same area, and we are now looking into this. We are not going to consider additional compensation issues, such as repairs, etc. The residents of Bisoba are to transfer the right to claim the money from the property developers, despite the fact that the major damage sustained by shareholders is going to be compensated by the government. They are still not happy, as it were. The building is 20 years old. Are we going to take the old junk? The standard housing does not provide the space that had been here, just like they told us that there is no compensation for repairs. It's up to us. The same with the square area. They would say, that's all we have, take it or leave it. It looks that that's how it's going to be. I'm shocked by the fact that their civil servants will be the first to get the new apartments. The residents of the collapsed house who purchased their apartments under the governmental program will not only be the first to receive new apartments, but their mortgage payments will be suspended until they receive new accommodation.
Many Almaty residents are also dissatisfied with the quality of recently commissioned housing. Tenants of Tausamal estate say their apartment blocks are still not connected to the city infrastructure despite passing all commissioning approvals several years ago.
The poor quality of construction is a reason for worrying for one of the residential complex inhabitants in Almaty. Following a similar building collapse in Karaganda, city residents proposed to examine the procedures of constructing and commissioning new buildings. Back in 2006, the Quad Corporation initiated construction of a residential complex Tausamal, but the crisis hit and the project was suspended. In 2008, Prime Minister personally promised to interest holders that their problems will be resolved. The indigenous inhabitants even put up a real show by arranging a housewarming party near the company's office. Following numerous protests, in 2009, the government allocated around $68 million to complete the project. The Distressed Assets Fund took charge of the finances. The next year, the money was provided, although the building was still not completed. The Distressed Assets Fund management as well as the city administration said the project will be finished shortly, before the end of December 2010. In 2011, the president issued a decree instructing to solve all interest holders' problems, and the city mayor handed out flat keys, including to all inhabitants of the notorious complex. On December 31, the state committee signed all the commissioning acts, which say that all 6 buildings had all the necessary amenities, while the remaining 2 are going to be completed shortly. To this day, the remaining 3 complexes have not been linked with hot water network, so there is boiler installed in every apartment. The reason is due to the violation of technical requirements and mismatching of the pipe's diameter. On March 16 at 9 o'clock, the main power line failed, and 6 p.m. all the blocks were disconnected from the heating and water supply. 18 hours after, the buildings were connected to the backup grid, and we are still unaware of what has happened to the main power line. We do not see any repair works going on to fix this. They promised to fix the breakdown in January, then February, March, May, June. Now they are not even saying anything. The buildings have been like this since October last year, and no repair works have been done on the grounds that they have problems with water and electricity. Representatives of the Distressed Asset Fund say that they have nothing to do with interest holders' claims. Sergei Ilyakhin suggests just to file a suit against contractors, although he does admit there is a problem regarding commissioning of the remaining buildings. Ilyakhin explains that people will need to wait for all the technical glitches fixed. One of the problems that is really pressing now is providing drinking water to the buildings. The matter is that water extraction installations have not been completed yet. The owners of the land are now on the trial regarding water extraction installations. Still, we have already found a way out. We are going to allocate extra finances to connect the buildings to the main water network of the city. Since the crisis hit in 2009, the government allocated over $700 million to support the construction under the shared ownership terms. Last year, around 2,000 apartments were put into service. The city administration promises that the remaining 1,139 citizens will move in their apartments in 2012.
The criminal case instigated after the death of the 16-year-old Alexander Divin is revised as the infliction of serious bodily injuries resulting in death. Previously, the case involving the boy's PE teacher was qualified as death caused by negligence.
The preliminary investigation authorities received the report of forensic medical experts' examination about the death of Alexander Divin. Based on this report, the previous criminal charges for minor's death has been reclassified as a grievous bodily harm resulting in death of the victim. Alexander Divin's body was found in the school basement 6 months ago. The young man died after the so-called educational work with the PE instructor. Back then, the criminal investigation was initiated along with a number of forensic examinations. However, the policemen were unable to identify suspects. Divin's family insisted on exhumation. Only after the forensic medical examination by the experts from Astana, the investigation finally got off the ground. However, even now the case suspect is yet to be identified. According to the DIA, this is not going to change until the investigation process is completed.
More than 30 teachers of the Turkestan boarding school are openly accusing the director of the facility of numerous violations. In the past, the staff sent complaints to various state bodies, but the situation was not resolved. Therefore, the teachers decided to publicize the information on hand.
Мы боимся, понимаете, нас завтра, мы не уверены в завтрашнем дне, мы будем здесь работать или нет, вы знаете? Что вам сказали? Ну вот, нам сказали с завтрашнего дня, чтобы их не запускали.
It took more than 4 hours for reporters to listen all the complaints. Teachers say that abuse first occurred more than a year ago after the appointment of the new boarding school director Dana Urmanova. The first victim of the school inquisition was the head teacher Zaura Jildabayeva, who supposedly revealed her boss' misconduct. First, I was told to collect money for school repair, but I refused. Teachers raised money for repair and the dormitory was completely renovated. Salary and teaching load revision took place in September. Again, I was told to collect money, but I refused once again. Teachers are really concerned and say it's time to save the children. Poor rations and meals made from stale products reflect on kids' already weakened health, educators say. Meanwhile, parents are panicking. Their children simply refuse to go to school now. Students refuse to eat, saying that meals stink and it would be better to go to bed starving than eating the rotten meat. 2 of my sons are studying here. Coming back home on Saturday, they complained that no meals were served and no clothes provided. It can be seen from this video that children have usual boiled pasta for meals, although reportedly State Treasury allocates over $250,000 for children catering annually. It was rather difficult to set up an interview with the boarding school director. Dana Urmanova considers all charges against her baseless and says she knows well who is making her life difficult. Everything you see here I made by myself. Nobody gave me money. As for catering, it's not up to me. The food is provided by a company that won a tender of local education board. The boarding school staff, frustrated with endless exaction for repairs, diesel fuel and other needs, filed a petition to the prosecuting office. We have issued a resolution for the inspection of the facility with the involvement of appropriate controlling bodies. The inspection is currently underway, while a financial and economic activities audit has been planned as well. The prosecutor's inspection will last for about a month. Teachers and educators have already collected a lot of incriminating documents and hope to bring the director to responsibility.
Kevin Dolman, a Canadian-Kazakhstani professional hockey player and the number 38 of the Astana Baris, hasn't officially terminated his contract with the team yet, although his wife already bid her farewell to Kazakhstan. Stacey Dolman published several unflattering posts about Kazakhstan in her personal blog, creating a serious scandal in the process.
Canadian hockey player Kevin Dalman, number 38 of the Astana Boris since 2008, is leaving the team in Kazakhstan for yet unknown reasons. Several foreign media outlets revealed this information recently, suggesting that Dalman may have asked for a raise, although many believe that the real reason is the sportsman's wife. Stacey Dalman had posted her impressions of living in Kazakhstan in her personal blog. She described the overwhelming corruption, the unfairness of the police, or the disbalance of the officials enjoying the fancy cars while the poor are struggling for survival. I have one weakness: I detest injustice. I cannot see how other people are taking credit for things that don't belong to them. I think I start hating everything related with Kazakhstan, as life here is quite unjust. These posts had raised a storm of protest, although there were many people who supported Stacey's position. Nevertheless, Kevin Dalman's agent tried to save the situation and said Stacey had never posted anything like that. Still, Dalman's contract runs out in the end of April, and it's yet unknown whether it will be extended. No one could provide an official statement on that before April 30, when the contract runs out. I personally don't know anything, and I'm often asked about it, but as I've said, I have no idea. Also, I did read what she wrote. We have freedom of speech after all, and then it's by no means an official statement. Perhaps this is only a coincidence, but President Nazarbayev chose this time to scold city officials and ask them to improve their attitude, especially towards foreigners. When leaving this city, people should be talking about its excellent hospitality, polite police, and how they have good memories of Astana. It's not yet known how negatively Stacey Dalman's statements may impact Kazakhstan's image. According to some sources, the hockey wife is pregnant and is not likely to continue struggling for justice in Kazakhstan. In her last post, Stacey said she was done, although her unofficial yet obvious expulsion from the country only verifies each and every point that she has witnessed over the past 4 years spent in Astana.
Kazakhstan will host the 2013 Boxing World Championship following the agreement struck on Thursday by the International Amateur Boxing Association Chinku Wu and the head of the National Federation Timur Kulibayev.
It is the first time Kazakhstan is hosting such a high-level boxing championship, although the country's sports agency has a solid background in organizing events of this scale. Last year, it served a venue for the championship amongst juniors, as well as Asian championship among women. In the meantime, 9 boxers from Kazakhstan are now getting ready for the London Olympics. The president of the Boxing Federation, Timur Kulibayev, assures that local athletes show a lot of promise. We have good athletes, and I assure all the boxing enthusiasts that we will be represented by really good ones in every weight category, and it will be fun to watch their fights.
The exhibition of French modern art opened in Astana on Thursday. Coincidentally, the head of state spoke to officials just recently about stepping up their efforts in engaging city residents in cultural life of the capital by hosting exhibits of world-famous museums.
Astana is unlikely to host exhibition of art collections from Louvre, said on Thursday French attaché in Kazakhstan Bénédicte Brunet. In a very diplomatic manner, he explained that exhibiting paintings from the world-famous museum in Astana would be very difficult and expensive. There is little chance the local authorities will go to such length. This project is very difficult to implement, and it's not only about the remote location of Kazakhstan. This is more about great financial expenses such project entails. While scolding the government officials for poor organization of social activities, he asked for the revival of the capital's cultural life. The president believes the regular exhibitions of art collections from world-famous museums will make a great contribution to that. We may get a negative response from Louvre or London museums, but chances are high we'll make an arrangements with Pushkin Museum in Moscow and Hermitage in St. Petersburg. We should varnish the capital city by exhibiting the true works of art. The community of Astana's art enthusiasts is somewhat reluctant to support the national leader. The famous museums are unlikely to cooperate due to a number of reasons. Logistics is just a part of the problem, so are reception, insurance and security aspects. There should be a state guarantee in the first place. In fact, if we aim at hosting serious exhibitions, the government support should become a part of the state policy, as these exhibitions will not bring any profit. For now, the residents of Astana are left to settle for obscure works of art instead of classic masterpieces. Ironically, the exhibition of French modern artists was opened in Astana just yesterday. Chances are, someday these paintings will take their place in Louvre, so there might be a little consolation in the fact that local residents were among the first to see them.
This is all we have time for now. Thank you for watching and goodbye.